Hey, what is going on, guys? JC here, and what I'm bringing you guys today is a tutorial on how to add custom buildings with the correct loot onto your DayZ community server or private server, however you want to call it. So there are two ways to do this. One way that might be actually a little bit easier is to spawn them in by using a custom event and basically making the building an event. Now, to me, the only problem with doing that is if you add a building in by using an event, it's considered a dynamic event, which meaning the only loot that will spawn in that building is helicopter loot spawn. So you'll have the VSDs, the SVDs, night vision goggles, not night vision, yeah, NVG, stuff like that. If you have a community server, for instance, I'm in Colin Brody. If I wanted to spawn these buildings here, I don't want that to be all that top tier loot to be easily accessible. You know what I'm saying? Right off the spawn. So the second way to do it is the way we're doing it here, and that is with DayZ Editor. Now you can use this. You must have a PC, of course, to use the program. But if you've got a private server, I'm sure you have a computer, and you can actually add these buildings for console as well. And it's pretty much the same method. So we're going to walk through it. This is a file that I've been working on. This is actually on my hardcore Winter Livonia server that I have running, which is active, and it's great. So let's get into it on how we're going to do it. This is not a tutorial by any means on how to use DayZ Editor. We're just going to create the buildings. So let's say we want a land. Let's do mill. Let's put. Let's put a barrack. Okay. We're gonna put our barracks right here. We're not really caring about how it looks, guys. We're just this tutorial. We want to align to a surface, of course. Bring this back up. It's gonna look like shit, but okay. Not really lined up with the road at all, but it's okay. So let's make sure that we can actually access the building, which it's probably, yeah, no, that's, we're gonna do this just a little bit different. So let's come back into this. Let's actually delete this. Barracks 1, we're gonna put it like here, and we're gonna sink it into the ground like so, and let's align to the surface, bring it back up. And this should be good. Let's see. No clipping. Everything is great. This is what we want. Okay, so there's our barracks. So we have our barracks. Let's get crazy with it. And let's also add another tower, right? Towers. Didn't add right here. Go ahead and add another tower. So we're going to put this here. Go ahead and just drag it down just a little bit so it's actually accessible. There's our tower. Come up here, and bam. There is our tower. Let's do one more thing. We'll try and keep it short and sweet. Let's do a wreck. Okay. Let's go ahead and crash an airplane. An airplane got crashed out here for. I don't know why it would, but it did. Airplane crashed. Come down here. Let's just make sure it's actually on the ground, not floating. And that looks pretty good to me. In here, and let's check it out. Now, of course, no loot spawns in this thing ever, but this is just there's a little bit of clipping, but it's okay. This is just for tutorial purposes. You guys can fine tune how you want it. But those two buildings right there will have loot. So once you've got your buildings set the way you want them, let's come back to this screen here. What we're going to do is we are going to export as a com, which is a .json file. We're going to come down here, and let's name it no caps, YouTube test. Export. And then we're also going to export a map group post. YouTube test. We're going to just name it all the same thing. Export know it already exists. And that's it. We can now leave the editor. So once we've left the editor, we can now get over to our server files, right? So once we get over to our server files, actually, no, I take that back. The first thing we need to do is you need to open up your favorite text editor. I personally like Notepad++. It gives a lot of very, very good for what we're doing because it's all C editing. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up wherever you saved those files. It'll most likely be on your local drive. For me, it goes to my my OneDrive. I don't know why. But here is our YouTube test XML file. Here is our YouTube test.json file. So here's our two files. This is the map groups, the map group host. What this file does is this is what tells the server what loot needs to be spawned. So all of these, like land mill, fortified nest, watchtower, the land container 1MO. This is it. Basically, it's got in your server files to say, okay, this land container needs to have this loot. That's something else entirely that can be edited, and that's not what we're doing today. We're just getting the loot to spawn in the buildings. So this is a very, very important file. What this file does, this is your .json file. This is what actually tells the server to put the buildings in place. This is where the buildings are. Now, you can't just export this over to your server files because this is actually laid out incorrectly. So the correct way to lay this out, as you can see, is this is a custom one that's from the DayZ's website. Now you could do all of this and make all these changes, but hell to the no, that takes too long. All you need to do is come right here, copy this, come right here, paste. Okay, that's the first step. Second step is this parameter 1, parameter 2, and parameter 3. If you look at the web page, it is actually supposed to be name, position, and YPR. So what we're going to do is we're going to Control F, and we're going to replace PARAM1. That is going to get replaced with name. Hit replace all. So now all of the parameter 1s have been named name. Number 2 was POS. So we're going to do that. Replace all. Now they're all POS. Parameter 3 was YPR. So we're going to hit replace all. And now it's all YPR. Once that's done, we can go ahead and we can save as YouTube test. Let's put this to our desktop. Make it a little bit easier. If you want to put it to a certain file, that's perfectly fine as well. And now we're ready to go to our actual server files. So once we're at our Nitrado server, make sure it's stopped. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to general. Now I just want to put out that this will work for any server hosting for PC, but this also is where you get your console servers. It'll work either way. You want to make sure that your CFG gameplay.json file is turned on. This is a must. If this is not turned on, it will not work. So once that's turned on, you're going to come into your file browser. You're going to come into your DayZ standalone. You're going to come into your missions folder. Now, if you're on Chernarus, you'll have Chernarus. If you have a Livonia server, it'll be Enoch. We're on Livonia, so we're going to go into Enoch. And then this is where we are. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to delete this YouTube test. And we're actually going to upload our new one, which is right here, YouTube test.json. So once this file uploads, there it is. Now this file will not be read by the server. It will not be read, so it can literally be right here. Console, you might have to create another directory and name it custom, and then put this into the custom file. But for PC, you can literally just upload it right here. So once this is uploaded, We are now going to go into our cfg.gameplay.json file. We're going to come here, and now object spawner, when you first get it, these brackets right here are going to be empty. So what you're going to want to do is you are going to type this in exactly the way it is spelled on, the file that you've uploaded. So YouTube test.json. Now, if on console, like I said, you might need to do this. You might need to make another directory and name it custom. So you would do custom / YouTube test or whatever you named it. But on PC, you do not have to do that. We are just going to name it. That's our file. So let's go ahead and save it. Get back out of this. The next thing we're going to do is, and just a quick thing. The reason why we did this is because this is all of our custom buildings. So in our CFG gameplay, that object spawner, this is what tells our CFG gameplay to upload and actually make all of these buildings current. Now what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that there's loot in those buildings. So here's my map group POS. We're going to delete this and we're going to start it fresh. I actually have a backup one. So let's go to upload. Let's go to our downloads. Here's my backup. Always, always, always make a backup of your files, guys. Always. So we're going to come into our backup. So this right here is the standard vanilla loot for all of the buildings that are in Livonia. Okay? All of them. This tells the server what loot to spawn. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here, hit enter. We're going to come back to our YouTube test. These are all of our extra buildings. Start up here. Come down and copy. And we're going to come back over to our server. You can open this file into Notepad++ if you want. I think it's just a waste of time, honestly. Just literally copying and pasting is perfectly fine. You want to just keep scrolling up a little bit just to make sure nothing's sticking out. Sometimes if you copy it wrong, it'll be like this. And if it's like that, it won't work. So if it's like that, you just literally come through here, make sure everything is nice and lined up, hit save. And we literally just add that right to the bottom of our vanilla files. So we're going to come back out of this. And then there's one last thing that we're going to do. And that is going into our environment. We're going to come to our zombie territories. Now, if you're creating a military base and you want zombies to spawn in it, you need to do this. If you are just creating buildings with no zombies, like inside of a town or something, you can completely skip this step. But what we would do is we would come down here to infected army. Right here. And you would literally just go like this. I've already done it. You go like this. You make a copy. Or you copy that line. Space. Control V. And then you would come to here. Sorry. Right here. Say this guard tower that we just put. It was 8541 would be our X. And our Z would be 11612. You would come back to your server and you would type that right here in your X and in your Z. We are actually going to get rid of this though because we don't need it. So that's how you make zombies spawn in that area. Like I said, if you're just adding a building inside of a town, you don't need to do that. If you are making a military base, then I would highly suggest you have military Zeds spawn there. So once this is all said and done, we're almost ready to start our server. What I'm actually going to do, though, is because I want loot to spawn right away, we are going to do a server wipe. If you don't do this, then basically you'll have to wait for your server to start processing loot the normal way. Now, if you have a populated server and you don't want to wipe anyone's player inventory or you don't want to wipe their bases or anything like that, you can actually come into your data folder and just remove the types files. So there's 3 of them. Just remove types 1, 2, and types bin. And that will wipe just what the loot that's on the grounds. It'll keep everyone's base, and it should keep everyone's characters. Or, like I said, you can just go ahead and upload it yourself and just kind of wait for the server to do its thing. What I'm going to do though is I'm actually going to just go ahead and delete this file, because as soon as the server gets started, this file will automatically be put back. So that's pretty much it. Our server is ready to be started. Let's make sure we have everything checked. Let's come into our DayZ standalone again. Missions, our Enoch or Chinaris, depending on the server you're in. So we have our YouTube test.json file right there. If we open up our CFG gameplay, we have the object spawner to call out that YouTube test.json file. I'm glad we're doing this because I remembered something we didn't do. We added the map group coordinates, but we forgot to rename it. So guys, every time you edit this file or change the name, this has to be named the vanilla file. Otherwise, your server will not read it. So if we would have just done that, there would have been absolutely zero loot on the entire server. So I'm glad we came back in here. So make sure you always have it the correct name. Everything looks like it's good. We're going to go ahead and everything's saved. We're going to start our server. So we are loading into the server. Now, if we did everything correctly, we should see our buildings, and there should be loot inside these buildings because we did an economy wipe. So we should. Let's take a gander together. I will recommend, guys, if you're going to do this, to do a little bit at a time. Like, do it in chunks. Have a second server. I actually have, this is a second test server for doing this kind of stuff. I don't want to, break my server or be forced to do a hard wipe or be forced to do a reset. You don't want to do that, guys. So always have a second server that you can play with. Just do a cheap little 10 slotter. And then once you got everything's nice in working order, then upload your files to your live server. I'm telling you guys, it's the smartest thing you can possibly do, because literally one wrong thing and you're going to be forced to do a fresh install. You know what I mean? And nobody wants to do. DayZ is sweet old time to get into the server, but it's okay. So, oh, okay, we've already spawned in the base, but here we are. So there's our two buildings that we just spawned together. There's our airplane. As you can see, we've got a combat knife. Come down here. Of course, this is vanilla loot, guys. Nothing's boosted. So here's our grenade. But let's go check the buildings that we just spawned in together. So if we did everything correctly, which I believe we do because there's loot there, we should have loot in these buildings. Let's take a gander. And what do you know, guys? We have loot. Let me actually turn my HUD on. We have loot. There's our backpack. There's a compass. That's a good place for a compass, but okay. There's a compass. Come up in this guard tower. Now, if you guys want to control the amount of loot that's in these buildings, that's a completely different thing. I'm gonna put it here. But, yeah. That's a completely different thing, and that's not the goal of this video. This goal of this video was to do exactly what we've done, and that is create a buildings that spawn the correct loot. Now, I'm pretty sure there's nothing at this bird, but we can go take a look at it. Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. I don't think I've ever found loot in the airplane. Yeah, there's no loot. This is purely for cosmetic. But there you have it, guys. As you know, that's Colin Brody. If you guys play Livonia, you know this is not supposed to be here. Everything that's here has been customly spawned in. And it's all spawning correctly. Let's go check these barracks over here, just to see if, for this little airplane hangar, I did add some crates in here, just to see what we've got. Rope. Alright, that's great. A raincoat. There we go. Got a gun. With magazine. So there you guys have it. Everything is spawning loot the way it's supposed to spawn loot. Like I said, if you want to increase the amount of loot, that is a completely different thing that I'm sure you guys know how to do that. Increase the nominal values. Saline bag. And yeah, that's it, guys. We have successfully spawned in an entire base. As you know, like I showed you about spawning into zombies, you'll see that there are zombies all in a radius of this base. There's zombies in the base. That wasn't good. That's okay. There's loot there. On this ladder. Cut. We're going to die. Oh my god. But yeah, that's it. So hopefully, guys, this video helped you. If it did, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help out the best I can. I will throw some helpful links in the description. That way you guys can basically do everything that I did, and make it as easy for you as you can. So guys, I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.